With the most confusing part of the Lord of the Mysteries anime already explained, it's time to actually piece the story together. Episode 7 is vital to understanding the plot and direction that the story is going in, and has tons of foreshadowing in it. Understanding what this episode means is very important to fully understanding the rest of the season. If you couldn't tell, understanding is the word of the day. Tons of things make sense after watching this episode, you just have to pay attention. The point of this video is to break down this episode into important bullet points to make it easier to understand. I'll also be providing insight into important things that might be novel only or hard to recognize on your first watch. Anyways, let's get on with it. Episode 7, Coincidence. The episode starts and we flash back to the forest surrounding Lemon Town from episode 6. Klein asks Azek about the erratic fluctuations in his fate that Azek kept mentioning. Azek asks Klein if he's noticed coincidences in the last 2 to 3 months, and goes on to say that maybe a clue is hidden within the coincidences. He even mentions the Antigonus family's notebook being part of it. We see the invisible feather, sound motif, and writing sounds right in our face once again. We see the transaction of the Antigonus family notebook again, involving Hannes Vincent and a new character that we actually haven't seen before. This person was also involved with the sale of the Antigonus family notebook, and we did not know that before. We return to present day at Blackthorn Security Company, where Klein and Neil get off the elevator. There's pastries and wine around the lobby, and Kenley greets Klein and Neil and says that he just got engaged, which is why they're celebrating. We also get introduced to Sika Tron for the first time, who's a sleepless Sequence 8 Midnight Poet. Honestly, she isn't very important to Season 1, and I don't even think we see her again in this season. Anyways, Leonard shows up and starts being freaky like usual, then Dunn appears. He gives out patrols to everyone, but forgets about giving Klein an assignment. Leonard explains that reality and his dreams intertwine, leading to bad memory. He says that if Dunn suddenly remembers everything, they'll know that something's very wrong. Dunn assigns Klein with watching the Channis Gate by himself. He's told to not open it no matter what, unless it's open from the inside. Klein goes down to the Channis Gate, and goes through some of the Nighthawk's archives while he waits. It's just important case files for incidents that he's been a part of. He mentions the Deweyville Library record, and doesn't elaborate. This is important for later. Klein hears a noise, and pulls out his revolver. He peeks through the gap, and hears banging noises coming from the Channis Gate. The Channis Gate opens for a few seconds, and Klein walks towards it. He stares at the opening doors, and sees a hand. The figure walks in front of the gap in the door, and it's a doll. It looks at Klein, and Klein rings the bell that alerts the other Nighthawks that there's trouble. Leonard runs down to see what's going on, and we see the doll again. It holds up a piece of paper to Klein before being sealed back behind the door. The doll is sealed artifact 3-0625, Misfortune Cloth Puppet. Leonard and Royale step back and distance themselves from Klein. They explain that there's been cases where a Berserk Beyonder has rang the bell to lure other Beyonders closer to be killed, so they're just taking precaution. Leonard recites a phrase to clear Klein, and a constipated Neil shows up and immediately leaves to use the restroom. Leonard notes that the cloth puppet has been inside the Channis Gate for decades, but has never been seen to be moving like that. He suspects it was under the influence of the Antigonus notebook, since it was the only new artifact to be placed behind the Channis Gate recently. Fast forward and we return to the cathedral under the gray fog. Audrey and Alger write the Chinese characters from Roselle's pages that they found, and give them to Klein. They remember what the characters look like in order to draw them for Klein in this space. They still don't understand Chinese. Klein reads the pages, and we hear about Zeratul again. Klein reminds us that he's from the Zeratul family from the Fourth Epoch. It's revealed that Zeratul was the leader of the Secret Order. He talks about lower sequences strictly following the acting method to progress sequences, as well as stealing an artifact. Not much else is useful here, besides a mention of the Antigonus family notebook and the Seer pathway, which the Secret Order possesses. After Klein is finished reading, he invites the others to speak freely. Audrey asks when she'll fully digest the Spectator Potion, since she's been feeling that the acting method has helped their progress. Klein answers with what he just saw, which is that it should be a month to half a year. Audrey talks about a Sequence 8 listener from the Aurora Order, and mentions the true creator. Audrey is confused by this, and Audrey explains what the Aurora Order and other orders believe, that the creator didn't fully fade but left behind a core existence, the true creator. It's noted that allegedly the Hanged Man tarot card by Roselle used the true creator as a reference. Alger looks to Klein to make sure nothing he said was false, but Klein says he's more inclined to call him the Fallen Creator. Alger tells Audrey that Beyonders who worship the Fallen Creator typically lose control more often than non-worshippers. Alger asks Klein what he would like as payment, and he says more of Roselle's diary or information about the Antigonus family. Alger responds with saying he doesn't know much, but they possess a terrifying, eerie pathway. The Antigonus family can be traced back to the Cataclysm epoch, which is the third epoch. In the fourth epoch, the Antigonus, Ammon, and Abraham families supported the Blood Emperor to help him form the Tudor Empire. Then it is revealed that the Antigonus family was destroyed by the Evernight Goddess at the end of the fourth epoch. This information seems to shock Klein, likely due to the fact that the Antigonus family is gone and is at the hands of the Evernight Goddess no less. Klein ends the gathering, but remains inside the Great Fog. He ponders about the eerie and terrifying pathway mentioned, wondering what it is, as well as the Antigonus family relic that Zeratul wanted the Emperor to steal. The Secret Order holds the Seer pathway, so Klein realizes that he can obtain Seer sequence potions from them, and wonders if some of them may even be inside the Antigonus notebook. Klein then thinks about the coincidences that Azek mentioned. He conjures 3 documents which describe the situations that he's been a part of, like the ones inside the Nighthawk's archives. Elliot's kidnapping. After finding the kidnapper, Klein found a clue that told him the Antigonus family's notebook was in the other room. Raybeaver absorbed the notebook in Tingen, which led to 2-049 to easily find him. Vincent's magic mirror. Vincent led Selena Wood to perform magic mirror divination, which Klein happened to be present for. Klein notes that he didn't notice anything wrong with his divinations, and realizes that it could have been interference. He then divines the true cause behind Elliot's kidnapping. The divination fails, which means he's being interfered with. He sees the Antigonus notebook, and questions if Elliot's kidnapping was plotted specifically to lead him to where the notebook was. He then sees Tingen City, and divines the real reason Raybeaver stayed in Tingen. The truth behind Hanas Vincent's magic mirror divination. Nothing happens again, so there's still interference. Klein is unable to get a clear result, which he chalks up to just being low sequence. Klein wants to focus on advancing sequence, but notes that his digestion has hit a standstill. He doesn't understand why, though, since he's been doing everything that a seer should be doing. This proves that seer has more than one principle of acting. Klein then divines the lead to the cloud potion. He sees Bieber's corpse, with a glowing brain coming out of it, the clown's dead body, with glowing blood coming out of it. He then sees Welch and Vincent in the midst of their notebook deal. Klein doesn't know how to interpret this divination, but then sees a man with Vincent that he hasn't seen before. Sirius Arapis is his name, and Klein doesn't actually know this yet. Fast forward to the Divination Club on 13 Howe Street. A woman named Christina is asking for Klein, who isn't there. He literally just walks in as this conversation's happening, and sees a newspaper with the photo of a man named Lanavis on it. The title of the article says, Lanavis named as suspect in the iron ore investment case on the Hornachus Mountains. It seems that Lanavis scammed multiple people out of 10,000 pounds. Klein assumes that the woman is seeking to divine about Lanavis's location, and says that she would need a picture of him as well as detailed information about him, or an item that he's owned for a long time. Christina asks if Lanavis's child would work for divination, which shocks Klein and the attendant. Christina introduces her niece, Magos. She seems to be pregnant with Lanavis's son. She says that Lanavis ran off with all their savings and they need to find him. Klein then says that if the baby was actually born, then it might work, but obviously it's still in the womb. Elizabeth tries to take Magos to a doctor, presumably for an abortion or to cut her open to take the baby out preemptively, which is, pretty messed up. Magos says that the baby isn't Lanavis's, and that he hums and whistles her to sleep. Klein thinks she might be nuts because of this, and Magos leaves the Divination Club and Elizabeth follows behind her. After the ordeal, Klein explains to the attendant that he was there because of his dream. He pulls out a detailed drawing of Sirius Arapis and shows it to her. She recognizes him, saying that him and Vincent talked outside the club. She then mentions that it's like her book, Stormwind Mountain Villa, by a woman named Fours. Klein asks her if she knows what Sirius and Vincent were talking about, and she says she doesn't know. Something about ruins, though. Klein assumes that this is related to the Hornachus ruins, and remembers the Deweyville Library borrowing record. Okay, I'm going to cut the anime here so that I can explain something. This scene is played extremely quick in the anime, and it doesn't exactly make sense how Klein knows to go to the Deweyville Library. In the novel, Klein draws a portrait of Sirius with the help of ritualistic magic, and asks Dunn to help investigate him. Later, Klein goes to Evil Dragon's bar and asks the boss, Swain, if he's seen the man that he's drawn. He says yes, and says that Sirius was looking for information relating to the Hornachus Main Peak ruins. There's a journal in the Deweyville Library that covers this topic, that Klein has borrowed before. When he got it, the librarian said that someone had just returned it. The idea was that Klein was going to go back to the library and ask the librarian if he recognizes the drawing of Sirius, and look through the borrowing record to find out what his name is. Anyways, back to the show. Klein looks through the borrowing record on the journal about the Hornachus Main Peak ruins. He sees Lenovis' name there, then sees a name that repeats multiple times. The journal was last returned by this person the day before Hanas Vincent's death. Klein discovers that this man's name is Sirius Arapis. We see Sirius coincidentally just a couple aisles away from Klein, looking through the shelves. Klein then asks where he can find the journal that he's investigating. Klein goes through the aisles, looking for the journal. He takes the book off the shelf and sees Sirius through the gap. Klein instantly recognizes him, and immediately thinks that it's too coincidental for him to meet Sirius here. Sirius looks at Klein, and Klein decides not to approach him. He plans on notifying Dunn that he's found the guy, then he just runs away, and Sirius jumps out the window to escape. He leaves a trail of blood, which Klein follows. With his revolver out, Klein notes that this reeks of losing control. We hear a growl, and Sirius on all fours begins clawing his way towards Klein. With purple and gray skin and sharp animal-like teeth, Sirius pounces towards Klein, but is just short and misses him. Klein is confused and gives Sirius a nice barrel stuff and pulls the trigger. Klein praises his good luck, and wonders what pathway could have possibly been weaker than Sequence 9 Seer. We are shown that Sirius is a secret suppliant, just like Hanas Vincent. This isn't really a surprise, since they're both part of the Aurora Order, which possesses said pathway. Klein decides to try to channel Sirius' spirit to find information about the clown potion. Inside the vision, we see Sirius writing down the recipe and a hanged giant necklace. Klein is kicked out of the dream by the true creator, and Dunn is behind Klein. Dunn's a bit upset with Klein for trying to commune with the Berserk Beyonder's spirit, since it's pretty unsafe. He warns him again of the dangers, and Klein apologizes. Leonard's just in the background and basically says that Klein seems to attract these cases, since Klein has been part of more Beyonder incidents that are normal for a season. Leonard looks through Sirius's pockets and finds a letter. It's addressed to Mr. Z, who we briefly saw in episode 4. Dunn tells us that the 22 oracles of the Aurora Order are represented by letters. Leonard reads the letter, which says that they didn't find anything of value in the Antigonus notebook, besides the recipes for seer, clown, and apprentice. Klein says that he found the clown potion through the spirit communication before the link was severed, but the recipe needs to be authenticated by the Holy Cathedral. Leonard goes on with the letter, and says that the Antigonus family must have left behind some kind of treasure, and that since the Antigonus family holds the seer pathway, they should know about their eventual annihilation. It then says that there's reason to believe said Antigonus treasure is on the main peak of the Hornachus mountain range, in the Nation of Evernight ruins. It then says, "Lastly, my dear Mr. Z, I'm making preparation for Doomsday and hope to receive your aid. When Doomsday arrives, I shall present all of Tingen as sacrificial sheep for the Master. Your insignificant servant, Sirius Arapis." This confirms to Klein that he was Sirius. Fast forward to later, and Klein's above the Grey Fog again. He notes that the eerie, frightening pathway possessed by the Antigonus family that was mentioned earlier is the Seer pathway, which we already knew. Klein then understands why he's been hearing about Hornachus ever since he drank the potion, since there's a real link between the Hornachus Main Peak ruins and the Antigonus family. He wonders what Filigree is, though, since we still don't know. Klein wonders what the treasure could be, and determines that it must be frightening. He goes back to what Leonard was saying about him seeming to attract Beyonders and evil powers, and wonders if they can be more than coincidences. Klein draws out a map of the coincidences that he's seen or experienced so far, which is a very complicated series of events. It all starts with the Antigonus family notebook, which influenced Klein to kill himself. This led to Klein's transmigration. Zeratul of the Secret Order influenced Roselle, who wrote in his diary that he regrets not choosing 3 pathways, with Seer being one of them. Klein is influenced by this to choose Seer. The Seer pathway is owned by the Secret Order and is also possessed by the Antigonus family. The Antigonus family was destroyed by the Evernight Goddess, but they also have a treasure suspected to be located at the ruins atop the peak of the Hornachus mountain range. Klein hears Hornachus in relation to the Seer pathway in the Antigonus notebook. Then, there's a person behind the scenes, who is related to Azek's son's head, and is related to the coincidences of Elliot's kidnapping, Bieber's disappearance, and Vincent's magic mirror. Through Elliot's kidnapping, Klein was eventually able to find the Antigonus notebook. Also through the Antigonus notebook and Sirius, Klein was able to find the recipe for the clown potion, which he needs, as well as the plan for Doomsday. This is all very complicated, but in short, everything is connected in some way, and there's tons of coincidences and things that are influenced by each other. Klein recalls that as soon as he went to the library to investigate Sirius, he immediately appeared. He needed the clown potion recipe, which he got right away. In addition to the other coincidences like Elliot's kidnapping leading Klein to the Antigonus notebook, Klein realizes that something's hidden here. Klein then thinks that if someone is truly pulling the strings to make these coincidences happen, then the first and biggest coincidence in Klein's fate would be the day that he shot himself. He then divines Klein Moretti's real reason for suicide by gunshot. Once again, Klein is faced with nothing. The divination fails. With yet another divination failure, Klein laments that it's naive of him to rely on divination for this. After all, divination isn't all-powerful. We see the blue orb representing Klein's digestion start to radiate, then burst open. Klein has fully digested the seer potion. The final acting principle was not relying on divination. Standing in a field of grass, Klein sees two red chimneys and determines that that's where the person behind the scenes is located. We then get a scene in which goes back in time, 1 month ago to be exact, and we see a skull, and it's revealed to belong to Tino Eggers, which is Azek's son. It's placed next to a blonde woman with a hanged giant pendant, her face covered in cloth. The man retracts from the altar and is Lanavis. He's a marauder, Sequence 8 swindler. We also see a man named Hood Eugen, who's a spectator, Sequence 7 psychiatrist. They perform an incantation for the true creator. Some of the people present are immediately killed, their blood decorating the ground. Hood Eugen is also injured and continues the ritual. Tentacle-like appendages spilled towards the blonde woman's pregnant stomach. In the post-credits scene, Klein is laying in bed. He hears whispers of the Antigonus family, the hidden treasure, and the nation of Evernight ruins. We see the Channis Gate and the Misfortune doll from earlier. Klein is reminded of the symbol on the paper that it showed him, which was of a vertical eye. Alright, there's a ton of important things that happen in this episode, but what should we actually keep track of? After mentioning the erratic fluctuations in Klein's fate again, we see the invisible feather, sound motif, and writing sounds. Under the influence of the Antigonus family's notebook, the Misfortune doll opens the Channis Gate and shows Klein a paper with a vertical eye symbol on it. Zeratul, who Emperor Roselle wrote about, is revealed to be the leader of the Sacred Order. He's also mentioned to be a seer. Alger reveals to us that the Antigonus family, who we've heard so much about so far, was destroyed by the Evernight goddess at the end of the Fourth Epoch. Klein notices many coincidences, and decides to attempt divination to see the cause of these situations, and his divination fails, indicating that he's being interfered with. Klein finds a lead on the clown potion through divination. We learn about Lanavis, who scammed a group of people out of 10,000 pounds. He has a fiancée named Magos, and she's pregnant with a child, and even says that it hums and whistles to her. After asking around about Sirius, Klein goes to the Deweyville Library, and through investigation and a set of coincidences, finds Sirius and the clown potion after channeling his dead spirit. The note that Sirius left behind addressed to Mr. Z of the Aurora Order talks about Doomsday, and a treasure left behind by the Antigonus family left on the Hornatus Main Peak ruins. Klein does some deep thinking about the Grey Fog, and comes to realize that nearly everything that's happened so far has been related, and someone behind the scenes has been influencing parts of it. Klein noticing these coincidences is very important, and ties everything that we've seen so far together, besides the Triss situation. The real question is, how was somebody controlling all these things from behind the scenes, and why would they even be doing it in the first place? Like, what's their motive? Klein fully digests his seer potion after realizing that the final acting principle for seer is realizing that divination isn't all-powerful. He's ready to advance to clown at any point afterwards. After digesting the seer potion, Klein sees 2 red chimneys which are a clue to where the person behind the scenes is hiding. We are shown a flashback of the ritual that was conducted on a pregnant blonde woman involving the true creator and Azek's son's skull. Lanavis is shown to be at the front of this entire thing, and he's revealed to be a Sequence 8 swindler of the Marauder pathway. Hood Eugen is also present, and he's a Sequence 7 psychiatrist of the Spectator pathway. This scene shows us clearly that Lanavis for some reason wants to bring the true creator back in some fashion. As I said earlier, this episode is filled with tons of information and detailed plot elements that are crucial to understanding where the story is headed. There's also a lot of missing info that can make this episode kind of confusing, like I mentioned earlier. We're introduced to Lanavis, who plays a big role in the plot for a while, as well as Hood Eugen. Hood isn't really shown before the scene, which is odd, since, it seems in the anime they are completely leaving out Daxter Guderian, who is Hood Eugen's caretaker, which, in the book, Klein investigates Daxter and eventually becomes Klein's informant. Daxter also gives Klein the Telepathist potion, which is a Sequence 8 potion of the Seer pathway. This entire character who's important to why Klein should know about Hood Eugen is left out of the anime, which is, honestly disappointing. This is yet another clear reason why the anime would have benefited from, being a couple episodes longer, as well as the whole library thing I mentioned earlier. It doesn't make sense why he would do it. I mean, just leaving that out just leaves out so much context. Anyways, that's all for this video. Like I said, there's a lot to keep track of, but if you understand this episode, you should be able to understand the last 6 episodes and why they're important to the plot. My next video will probably be my last covering the anime, since I want to talk about episode 13 in detail similar to this video, but also dive into what's said in the novel to give better information and understanding to what happens. As you should probably be used to by now, episode 13 is very good, but it has a good amount of missing content that isn't absolutely essential, but is nice to know about. I'll be quoting the book for that part of the video, to provide the entire story and meaning behind everything, so, stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and I hope that this video was able to help you understand the story of Lord of the Mysteries a little bit better. Anyways, until next time.